Hello, my name is Kayla Anderson, and today I will be presenting on LGBT plus resources accessible for the deaf and hard of hearing communities. To begin, let's address why more accessible resources for members of the LGBT deaf community are needed. Members of the LGBT hearing community struggle with their identities, sexual orientation, and finding acceptance. Being deaf and LGBT can be even more difficult, being part of two different minority communities. A couple of positives that LGBT deaf people have reported are feeling more accepted and included by the deaf community. This could possibly be because the deaf community is already familiar with living in a world that really isn't inclusive. It's not too far of a stretch to show compassion towards someone who's also LGBT. People have also reported that finding connection of being a member of both communities, they found a source of social connection, support, and community being both deaf and LGBT. Unfortunately, there's also some negative aspects reported for being part of both communities. Because some deaf communities are small, very close-knit, there's a lot of stress and anxiety when it comes to coming out to family and friends for the fear of rejection or not having that support. There is a lack of knowledge for both communities about each other. There's a need for more ASL interpreters and other deaf accessibility in LGBT settings, and there's not a lot of expertise in LGBT issues in the deaf and hard of hearing support settings. As we know, there's a lack of representation of deaf and LGBT people in social media and popular culture. When was the last time you saw both a deaf and gay person that was really in the spotlight? So the amount of representation just plummets, and it can be really difficult for people to see and connect with strong role models. There's very little research on the mental health of the deaf LGBT community. The Trevor Project is a nonprofit that focuses on suicide prevention and crisis intervention of the LGBTQ young people population. In 2020, the Trevor Project conducted a survey for deaf LGBTQ plus mental health. Unfortunately, the results were not desirable. It was already known that LGBT youth have higher rates of depression and suicide than their straight peers. However, this study showed that youth that were also deaf have even higher results of depression, suicidal ideations, and suicide attempts than their hearing peers. The study also showed that deaf individuals have experienced more discrimination due to their sexual orientation or gender identity than their hearing peers. So it wasn't covered in the study, but I am curious to know if this is due to the participants feeling more discriminated by members of the deaf community, or if they felt more discriminated due to the lack of communication with members of the hearing community. I found the last statistic to be the saddest, that deaf youth report less family support than their hearing peers. However, similar to their hearing peers, if the family support is present, suicidal ideations are much less likely. The Trevor Project is a fantastic resource for the deaf LGBTQ community. They are continuously working to be more inclusive. For deaf people that reach out for assistance, they offer text-based communications and voice-to-text, text-to-voice options. They have made sure their social media videos are all captioned. They include interpreters when they have community events. When training their volunteers, they cover how to increase accessibility when working with clients, such as captions, transcripts, and written directions. The Trevor Project continues to conduct research that includes the deaf community to gather further information and find more ways that resources can improve their methods to better serve their clients. In 2017, going into 2018, a study was conducted to research the disclosure rates of the deaf LGBTQ people of their sexual orientation and gender identity to healthcare professionals. With any LGBTQ study, the results are very difficult due to the variety of orientations and identities within that community. The results of this study are similar to the Trevor Project in that members of the deaf community are less likely to report to healthcare providers than members of the hearing community. This can cause issues, as we know if the doctor does not have full information, it can be very difficult to treat medical conditions. Some participants reported a concern of privacy with having both the interpreter and the doctor during the exam. Instead of disclosing information to just one person, now the patient has to disclose to two, and there can be fear of discrimination and lack of acceptance from maybe not just one party, but potentially both. Although this was reported as a concern, having an interpreter present did not appear to affect the results of whether people disclosed their information or not. The results indicated that, similar to members of the hearing community, people who identify as bisexual or queer were less likely to disclose their information than people who identify as gay or lesbian. This could potentially be due to the increasing prevalence of information of gay and lesbian people and less of the other sections of the LGBTQ community. As we saw with the Trevor Project, family and social support is critical to people's mental health. This study also found that it's important to physical health. If patients had the support of their family and peers, they were much more likely to disclose their information to the healthcare providers. Deaf LGBT plus resources are really important for people to find that support and inclusion within their own community. The first large resource that I found was through the National Association of the Deaf, which we're familiar with from previous class discussions. While researching this topic, I learned that the NAD has several different sections that people can become members of. So a few of the other sections other than LGBT that I found included education, senior citizen, and youth sections. The LGBT section was established in 2010 at the NAD conference in Philadelphia. Each section elects a chairperson who will lead discussions, activities, goals, and the overall direction of the section. The chairperson or another delegated member can also attend the NAD conference to represent their section. The purpose of the section is similar to the overall purpose of the NAD in that it seeks to improve the lives of deaf people and advocate for equal rights and access to ASL communication. The difference in the section is that it focuses on these rights primarily in LGBTQ settings. The mission of the section is to be a forum for advocating and discussing current socio-political deaf LGBT issues, providing information and resources and promoting full participation regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity in all environments within the deaf community and its allies in partnership with the NAD. Any LGBT deaf, hearing, and straight allies can join the section for an additional $5 on top of the NAD membership fee. The next resource that I found is the Rainbow Alliance of the Deaf, or RAD. RAD is a national nonprofit group that was established in 1977 by Roy Parker, who wanted deaf gays and lesbians from across the country to meet and become acquaintances and friends. The purpose of RAD is to establish and maintain a society for deaf gays and lesbians to encourage and promote the educational, economical, and social welfare, to foster fellowship, to defend their rights, advocate their interests as deaf, gay, and lesbian citizens concerning social justice, to build up an organization in which all worthy members may participate in the discussion of practical problems and solutions related to the social welfare. Roy originally started with a group of his deaf friends who gathered 80 people for their first conference in 1977. RAD continued to have annual conferences until 1987 when it was decided to change to biannually. The most recent conference was in July of this year in Arkansas. During past conferences, RAD has included presentations on topics such as LGBT plus versus religion, more as a misconception rather than opposing parties, showing that they can work together. Promoting awareness of generation disparities in LGBT plus community, and using ASL along with self-identification. As Sierra also found in her research, these websites are not easy to navigate. I did find the conference for next year on their Facebook page, so it's going to be in 2025. So my apologies, the year after the following. And it's going to be on a carnival cruise to the Caribbean. There is a local chapter called the Arizona Rainbow Alliance of the Deaf, but I was unable to find a direct website, and you have to be a group member on their Facebook page to see any of the information. A popular resource that I found on the NAD and RAD websites is the Deaf Queer Resource Center, which is a national nonprofit organization based in San Francisco. Unfortunately, when I went to the website, it's currently unavailable due to being under development. However, when I went to their Facebook page, I did see that they host a lot of events, both in person and virtually. Some of these events include Queer Educators in Deaf Education Meet and Greet, Deaf LGBTQ Youth Party, Deaf Queer Parents Meet and Greet, Deaf Queer Men's Social, and Deaf Queer Women's Social. Now we'll look at what Gallaudet offers, as they are the only university that is designed to be barrier-free for the deaf and hard of hearing. Gallaudet does have an LGBTQ resource center that was established in 2011, which serves as a hub for programs, services, trainings, activities, and student groups on campus. When searching the website in the Clubs and Organizations tab, I did find they have an LGBT plus club called the Rainbow Society. When I clicked on the link for more information, it directed me to their Facebook page, which didn't provide a lot of information but does list some of their previous events. While reading through the different pages on the Gallaudet website, I did find the university has been known to be accepting of the LGBT plus community and has a gay-straight fraternity where all are welcome, knowing the majority of the members are gay. In 2013, a graduate student, Alex Nelson, who was also the program coordinator at the LGBTQ Resource Center at the time, became part of the first community needs assessment for Washington, D.C.'s deaf and hard of hearing LGBTQ population. The goal of the study was to promote community involvement and increase networking for the deaf and non-deaf LGBTQ community members, as well as to create a platform for policy change and development in regards to access for the deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf-blind LGBTQ community in the DC area. As we've seen in previous presentations, it can be very difficult finding resources. While doing my research, I found so many promising links that I would click on and they would take me to sites that were no longer in use or didn't have any information in the past 5 years or were just completely disconnected. Luckily, with the continuous involvements in technology, there are more options of connecting people through online forums. Below are a few Facebook groups I was able to find. They include Deaf Gay World, Deaf Trans Diva World, Deaf Rainbow of Faith, Deaf LGBTs, Be Legit Queer Members section of RID Interpreters, LGBT Deaf Positive. What I enjoy about these groups is that there's such a wide variety. They don't only have commonalities of being deaf and LGBT, but they can focus on religion or being transgender. I really like the site that includes interpreters because, as we read before, deaf people are less likely to share their sexual orientation with healthcare providers, which can be super dangerous. I'm sure there's a lot of places like that where an interpreter that is also part of the LGBT community can help the patient or the client feel more comfortable and possibly open up that gateway of communication with different resources, help the person become more comfortable. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Hopefully learned of some new resources today that maybe a friend, family member, or anyone might be able to use. And here's a list of my works cited. Thank you.